divinely revealed, Moses' miraculous clash with Pharaoh's fury in God's unfolding redemption plan. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, in the land of Egypt, the cries of Israel's children soared to the heavens, piercing the stillness of a sun-baked land. They toiled under the relentless grip of Pharaoh's demands, shaping bricks that would rise into majestic edifices dedicated to idols of stone and gold. Among the weary, there stood Moses, a shadow of the man he once aspired to be. Born a Hebrew, raised in the palaces of the mighty, he found himself a fugitive, fleeing into the wilderness after an act of impulsive justice. On the rugged slopes of Mount Horeb, his heart still burdened with memories of his people's anguish, a divine revelation awaited. A bush flickered against the twilight sky, ablaze yet unmarred by the flames. Intrigued and fearful, Moses approached, the air thick with the earthly scent of burning leaves. Suddenly, the wind whispered, and the voice of Yahweh broke the silence. "Moses! Moses!" God's call rang with authority and tenderness, making the very ground tremble with holy significance. His heart quickened. He could not ignore this summons. "Here I am," he responded, his voice barely above a whisper. The Lord spoke again, revealing his compassion for Israel's plight. With trembling hands, Moses questioned, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" "Certainly, I will be with you," God assured him, and a surge of resolve coursed through Moses' veins as the weight of a sacred task settled upon his shoulders. Empowered with divine support, he took his brother Aaron by his side, journeying back toward the heart of Egypt, where the shadows of Pharaoh loomed large. As they stood before the throne of the great monarch, Moses uttered a simple yet weighty command. "Let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." Pharaoh's laughter echoed like thunder. "Who is Yahweh, that I should obey his voice?" This mocking rippled through the air, setting the stage for a clash of titans, a contest between the God of the Hebrews and the might of Egypt. Yet, with each refusal, the yoke upon their backs grew heavier. Bricks were demanded without straw, the cries of anguish heightened, and despair threatened to envelop the Israelites. Night after night, Moses wrestled with sorrow, questioning his calling. The silence of heaven felt profound until God's voice pierced the darkness anew. "I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all the wonders that I will do in it. After that, he will let you go." Miraculous plagues descended, the Nile turning to blood, swarms of locusts consuming every green thing, darkness enveloping the land, a testament to the power of God. With each sign, Moses returned to Pharaoh, yet his heart remained hardened, lost in pride. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's Word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's Word speaks to hearts across generations. Now, let's continue with what the Lord did next. The final plague loomed on the horizon, a harbinger of judgment poised to free the children of Israel. Preparations began amidst trembling hearts, for deliverance rested upon obedience to a promise yet unfulfilled. The tension between divine will and human resistance painted the air thick with anticipation, leaving Moses and the Israelites poised on the brink of liberation, where hope flickered alongside the shadows of despair, a divine mystery unfolding before them. And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month shall be the beginning of months for you. It shall be the first month of the year for you. Tell all the congregation of Israel that on the 10th of this month they shall take a lamb for themselves, according to their fathers' houses, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for a lamb, then he and his neighbor next to his house shall take according to the number of persons, according to what each can eat, you shall make your count for the lamb. The lamb must be without blemish, a male of the first year. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. And you shall keep it until the 14th day of this month, when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill their lambs at twilight. Then they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. They shall eat the flesh that night roasted on the fire. With unleavened bread and bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted, its head with its legs and its inner parts. And you shall let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning you shall burn. Moses conveyed these solemn commands, interwoven with urgency, to the weary Israelites who listened with wide eyes. Fear, mixed with hope, struck at their hearts. They grasped that this was not merely a meal, but a sacred act of faith, an invitation to partake in the fulfillment of divine promise. And thus you shall eat it, with your belt fastened, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and on all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am the Lord. A weighty silence enveloped the crowd as they absorbed the dreadful portent of this proclamation. The fear of judgment swept over the hearts of many. Yet in that moment, the promise of deliverance flickered through the darkness. The blood shall be a sign for you, God continued, revealing the depths of his mercy. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. In a distant chamber, Pharaoh's countenance hardened like iron. The embers of pride ignited his resolve, little knowing that his defiance heralded his own destruction. Meanwhile, Moses and Aaron stood before the Israelite elders, their faces alight with conviction. The people's spirits surged with a new strength, hearts knitted together in faith as they prepared to act upon the word of the Lord. In the darkened streets of Egypt, the trembling of fate loomed heavily. All was set. God's plan to liberate his people was drawing near, a poignant dance between judgment and mercy. The Israelites gathered their households, eyes gazing steadfastly upon the blood-stained doorposts, their hope pulsating with every heartbeat. And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord struck down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon. A great cry arose throughout all Egypt, for there was not a house where someone was not dead. Even in this moment of divine severity, there lay a testament of grace just waiting to be revealed. For as the lambs were slain, a whisper of a sacrificial promise echoed through the ages, pointing to a greater redemption yet to come. But what would be the next step in God's unfathomable plan? Would Pharaoh relent at last, or would his heart harden further? The dawn of deliverance approached, crackling with anticipation, where all the earth would witness his power displayed in both judgment and grace. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, and all his servants, and all the Egyptians. And there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. In the shadow of their anguish the Israelites stood ready, their hearts bound to the almighty promise of salvation. As the dawn broke over the land, a heavy realization rumbled within Pharaoh's heart. His spirit trembled with the weight of loss, and he hastened to call for Moses and Aaron. "Rise up, go out from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord, as you have said." The command spilled forth from his lips, yet even in his authoritative tone, a confluence of rage and despair flickered. Moses and Aaron, undeterred by his fury, answered resolutely, "We will take our flocks and our herds. We will go with us. We will let nothing remain behind." The expression of their faith glimmered like a light piercing the dense darkness that had shrouded them for generations. Pharaoh's eyes blazed with indignation. "If you will not go and leave your flocks, I will not let you go," he declared vehemently. Yet the mighty hand of the Lord had already promised their exodus, and Pharaoh's rage would only serve to unveil the sovereignty of God in its fullest measure. Threatened by the prospect of losing the labor force that had built the grandeur of his kingdom, Pharaoh's heart was further hardened. "I will send you away in haste, only let me not see your face again." He enveloped his own words with desperate foreboding. "For in the day you see my face, you shall die." Moses replied with solemnity, "As you have said, so shall it be. I shall not see your face again." With that, he turned and left Pharaoh's presence, the echo of God's enduring promise resonating within him. In the days that followed, the Israelites took the plunder of Egypt, gathering gold and silver, precious ornaments, and fine garments. As they prepared for their departure, Moses spoke to the people, saying, "Remember this day in which you came out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand the Lord brought you out of this place." That night, as they prepared for their long-anticipated journey, they shared in the feast of unleavened bread, each bite a testament to the deliverance that awaited them. The bitter herbs reminded them of their anguish, yet the bread reflected the sweetness of hope that now bore down upon them with every breaking of the loaf. As the moon illuminated the sky, they placed the final shreds of their possessions onto their backs. Anticipation bubbled in their hearts. That very night God would lead them forth from the land of chains into the promise of freedom. Each Israelite recognized that they were chosen, a people marked for divine purpose. Yet, unknown to them, a greater mystery simmered just beyond the horizon of their understanding. The plan of God was unfolding, stretching beyond their immediate sight. What lay ahead was not merely freedom from Egypt, but an everlasting covenant carved in the annals of time, pointing toward a Redeemer whose sacrifice would resonate through generations. The parting of the sea and the giving of the law awaited them, prophetic echoes of the promise that God was preparing to secure, and thus the stage was set, marked by the footsteps of a dejected Pharaoh and a liberated Israel. What would come next as they stepped into the unknown? The fullness of God's plan was yet to be revealed. As the night deepened and the stars adorned the heavens like jewels upon a royal crown, the Israelites gathered, their hearts pulsating with hope and trepidation. The air was thick with the scent of unleavened bread, the remnants of their bondage intermingling with the promise that lay ahead. Moses stood among them, his visage illuminated by the flickering oil lamps. "Prepare yourselves," he commanded with a voice both gentle and firm. "The Lord will lead us this night. We must move quickly, for the time of our deliverance has come. Gather your families, for we are to leave behind the chains of Egypt and embrace the freedom that our God has promised." As the moon cast its silvery glow upon the multitude, mothers huddled their children close while fathers took the lead, holding tightly to their meager possessions. They were a people in transit, not merely from one land to another, but from despair to hope, from servitude to divine destiny. Outside the gates of their bondage, however, a storm was brewing within the heart of Pharaoh. His mind twisted with rage and fear, the loss of his firstborn echoing like a specter haunting his thoughts. In the halls of his palace he roared commands, summoning his guards. "Bring back those wretched slaves. They cannot leave. Do you not see the chaos they bring upon the land?" Yet, as the guards rushed forth, a whisper from the throne of heaven breathed through the night, fueling the spirit of the Israelites. The Lord had spoken. "I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he shall pursue them." The winds shifted, carrying the urgency of God's purpose across the land, and as the Israelites made their way toward the exit of the city, they could almost hear the rhythm of divine footsteps leading them forth, guiding them into the unknown. They halted at the edge of the wilderness, a vast expanse opening before them, and Moses raised his staff before the people. "Fear not, for the Lord will fight for us. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today." His words throbbed with divine assurance, echoing through the anxious hearts of the Israelites. Meanwhile, Pharaoh, his heart weighted with vengeance, ordered his chariots to assemble, calling forth his finest warriors. After them, Do not allow them to slip away. We will show them that they are slaves and shall remain so." With thundering hooves and the clanking of iron, the Egyptian army surged into the night, their pursuit a dark cloud rolling across the horizon behind the fleeing Israelites. But the Lord Almighty had not forsaken his people. He whispered instructions to Moses, revealing that a miraculous sign awaited them, the parting of the Red Sea. As the Israelites approached the shores, the waters loomed on either side, ominous yet tantalizing. "Moses!" they cried, panic rising like a tide within them. "Is there not enough graves in Egypt that we should die here?" Moses, steadfast in faith, implored the Lord and raised his staff over the sea. Then, in a moment that shattered the heavens, a great wind blew, parting the waters and laying bare a dry path. The ground now trembled beneath their feet, and the divided sea rose like mighty walls, a testimony to God's unfaltering power. "Go," Moses shouted, urgency woven through his declaration. "Cross now, for the Lord has made a way. His promise holds, and we shall walk in it, passing from death unto life." With trembling hearts and eyes wide with astonishment, the Israelites complied, stepping into the pathway created by divine providence. But as they traversed, the clashing sound of chariot wheels neared ominously. Pharaoh's force was upon them. What would be the end of this tale? Would the pursuers overtake them, or would God's profound plan reveal itself in glory? As the last of the Israelites stepped forward, fear and faith danced in tension, and the unfolding of God's sovereign redemptive purpose reached an electrifying crescendo. The divine revelation was near, and all eyes were fixed on the sea, waiting to see what wondrous act the Lord would perform next. As the Israelites ventured forward, the waters towered high on both sides, a resplendent wall of God's might. Each step they took upon the dry earth bespoke their collective faith, a trust that transcended their fear of the chariots thundering behind them. The wails of women and the cries of children echoed through the air, yet hope flickered like a flame, illuminating the darkened path ahead. Moses marched at the forefront, his heart anchored in the promise of the Lord. He turned to the people, raising his hands toward heaven. "Remember this day, for the Lord will show us his glory," he proclaimed, and his words resonated as a battle cry against despair. Behind them, the Egyptian army pursued with relentless fury. Pharaoh's chariots, glistening with rage and vengeance, surged forth like a tempest unleashed. "Forward, do not falter." Pharaoh's voice rang against the night as he could taste the triumph of reclaiming what he believed belonged to him. The ground quaked beneath the weight of their effort, a testament to human pride clashing with divine purpose. But as the last of the Israelites entered the pathway, the Lord commanded Moses, "Stretch out your hand over the sea." And as Moses obeyed, the mighty waters trembled in response. With a roar like thunder, the waves crashed together, a cataclysmic demonstration of heavenly power unleashed upon the earth. Like a mighty hand, the water surged back, enveloping the Egyptian forces within. The Israelites turned to witness the spectacular might of the Lord, their voices lifted in awe. "The Lord is our strength and song," they sang with fervor, as walls of water flowed down in a divine cascade, consuming Pharaoh's army, leaving no remnant of their chase. But in the silence that followed, after the great crash of judgment bestowed upon their enemies, a profound stillness enveloped the second-born of Israel. Their eyes turned back toward the now sealed waters where the remnants of bondage had drowned. "Moses," they murmured, "is it truly over? Has the Lord delivered us from our oppressors?" Moses, standing tall, spoke with confidence. "The Lord has fought for us this day, and we shall never see these enemies again. Stand firm in faith, for the Lord will lead us through the wilderness into a land flowing with milk and honey." His words were a bond of promise, and indeed, within the hearts of the Israelites, fear began to morph into exuberant joy. They rejoiced, setting their minds not upon the powerful storm they had faced, but upon the God who had delivered them. As a celebration echoed through the camp, Miriam, the prophetess, took up a tambourine, leading the women in song. Sing unto the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and rider he has thrown into the sea. But God's plans were yet unfolding. As the dawn broke, illuminating the wilderness around them, the Lord spoke again into Moses' heart. My people, though you are free, you stand at the threshold of greater tests. The assurance in that whisper hung heavy, hinting at the struggles that lay ahead. As they journeyed forth, the residue of Egypt still lingered in their hearts, a testament to past bondage that needed to be purified. Through trials yet to come, the Lord would refine his people, shaping them into a holy nation, a kingdom set apart. For the journey had only begun, and each step forward held the promise of revelation, as God's sovereign plan would unfurl like the wings of an eagle. What further miracles awaited them in the wilderness? What truths would they uncover in their covenant with the Almighty? The dawn of a new era was upon them, yet the wilderness whispered of hidden challenges. Would the people learn to trust their God fully, even when sight was dim and the path uncertain? Their hearts hungered for more, a deeper communion with Him who had freed them, and the foundation of their faith would soon be tested in ways they could not imagine. Indeed, the time was approaching for God's promise to unfold in ways that would reveal His glory. And what would this wilderness journey prepare in the hearts of His people? As the sun ascended higher, illuminating the arid landscape, the Israelites found themselves in the wilderness of Shur. The beauty of their newfound freedom was marred by the uncertainty that lay ahead. They had witnessed the miraculous hand of God, yet doubt and yearning for the comforts of Egypt lingered in their hearts like shadows at noon. Moses led them further into the wilderness, his spirit directed by the Lord's voice, but a growing murmur of discontent arose among the people. "What shall we drink?" they questioned, their throats parched as the sun bore down hard upon them. They had not traveled far when their dire need for water became apparent, and soon the joy of deliverance began to fade like evening light. Moses, feeling the weight of his people's desperation, turned his gaze to the Lord. "What shall I do with this people?" he cried, and the Lord answered him, directing him to a certain tree. "When you cast it into the waters, they shall be made sweet." Without hesitation Moses obeyed, casting the tree into the bitter waters of Marah. A transformation unfolded before their eyes. The harsh bitterness melted away, replaced by sweet water, revitalizing the parched throats of God's people. A palpable joy erupted among the Israelites as they drank deeply. They marveled, for the Lord had proven His faithfulness once more, demonstrating His power over nature. Yet, as quickly as their joy awakened, the clouds of doubt gathered again. "If only we had died in Egypt," they lamented, recalling the flesh pots and the abundant bread. "Why have you brought us into this wilderness to die?" Their complaint echoed loudly, as the memories of bondage morphed into a false glamour. Moses turned to the Lord, his heart heavy with their disbelief. And the Lord spoke, promising sustenance, "Behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you." That evening, as the sun dipped low, strange flakes began to fall upon the earth. "What is it?" they whispered, confused and hesitant as they beheld the manna God had provided. "Eat, for it is the bread of heaven," Moses commanded. And they gathered the mysterious substance, finding it sweet to the taste and sustaining to their bodies. Their needs were met by the loving hand of God, yet something deeper still required transformation, their trust in Him. Day by day, God tested their hearts, instructing them to gather manna each morning, but forbidding them to keep any beyond the day, save the sixth day when 2 portions were provided. "Do not act on your own understanding. Trust what I have commanded." His word beckoned, echoing through the hearts of the Israelites. The people began to learn. Though trials loomed large and their hearts wavered, the goodness of the Lord remained steadfast. Each meal brought them closer to the realization that their welfare was a matter of divine providence and care. Yet amid the trials and blessings, they did not understand that these moments prepared them for a covenant relationship. God sought to shape them into a people who reflected His glory in the midst of the nations. As the days unfolded, their faith began to strengthen, but challenges still awaited. They would soon encounter the Amalekites, fierce and relentless, a true test of their dependency on God. The Lord had promised a land flowing with milk and honey, but first His people must learn not just to walk, but to walk in faith. What further lessons awaited them? What would they truly understand about their God in the shadow of the mountains and among the whispers of the wilderness? Each step was a divine orchestration, guiding them closer to the promises that would soon come to fruition as they journeyed into the uncharted paths of His will. God's sovereign plan was unfolding, marked by challenges and blessings alike, and only through the fire of these trials would His people emerge, purified and ready to fulfill their destiny. As the Israelites continued their journey through the wilderness, the days turned into weeks, each sunrise reminding them of their miraculous deliverance yet darkening with the shadows of doubt. Hunger and weariness clawed at their hearts, becoming a consuming fire in their spirits. The manna that had once seemed a wondrous gift now weighed upon them, its daily gathering transforming into a monotonous routine. "Our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all," they cried, despairing as they longed for the meat of Egypt. Moses bore their complaints upon his shoulders like an overwhelming burden. He fell before the Lord in prayer, seeking understanding and direction. "O Lord, why have you afflicted your servant? Why must I bear the burden of this people alone?" In that moment of fervent pleading, God spoke, "Gather unto me 70 men from among the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people and officers over them. Bring them to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you." And so Moses did as instructed, calling forth the leaders whose hearts were inclined towards God. As they gathered around him, the Spirit of the Lord descended as a cloud, resting upon them. Their eyes glinted with newfound hope as the power of God filled their hearts. They prophesied among the camp, sharing the vision of God's promise, and the people listened, finally heeding the voice of their leaders. Yet, in the midst of this divine revival, challenges loomed larger than the rising sun. Word arrived that the Amalekites had approached from the south, fierce warriors who sought to swallow the promise of God by striking the vulnerable from behind. Fear swept through the camp like a chilling wind, and the people trembled at the news. "Choose us men, and go out and fight," Moses commanded those who would stand against the onslaught. He appointed Joshua to lead the battle, while he would ascend the hill to intercede for them. "I will stand on the top of the hill with the rod of God in my hand." As the battle raged below, Moses lifted his hands towards heaven, and as long as his hands were raised, the Israelites prevailed. But as fatigue began to weigh upon him, his arms grew heavy and began to falter. The tide of battle turned against them, and it was then that Aaron and Hur approached, each taking one arm to support their leader. Together they held his arms steady until the sun set beyond the horizon, and with the falling dusk, Israel triumphed over Amalek, a clear testament to the power of God through unified faith and mutual support. In the aftermath, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Write this for a memorial in the book and rehearse it in the ears of Joshua, for I will utterly put out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven." Moses erected an altar and called it Jehovah Nissi, declaring, "For he said, because the Lord hath sworn that the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation." As day yielded to night, the people pondered their many lessons learned. This was but the first of many battles, yet through their struggles they began to grasp a deeper truth. Their existence hinged not on the comforts of Egypt, but on their God who fought for them. What was the significance of this victory? Could it be that God was not merely rescuing them from physical bondage, but forging a people who would carry His name and reflect His glory? The journey to the Promised Land had only begun, and the covenant would demand deeper understanding of His ways. God's sovereign plan continued to unfurl, beckoning them towards their true identity as a chosen nation amidst trials, sorrows, and triumphs. What would he reveal next in this unfolding story of redemption? And so it came to pass in the days following their victory over Amalek that the Israelites continued their trek through the desolate places. The wilderness around them was vast and barren, but within their hearts there grew a flame of remembrance of God's mighty hand and the bond which had begun to form between the one true God and his chosen people. Yet, even as the memory of their deliverance was fresh, doubt again plagued the camp. It stirred among the people like a storm brewing on the horizon, for their wanderings had not yet brought them to the promised abundance they had longed for. "Why have you led us here?" they murmured amongst themselves. "Is not the land of milk and honey a mere dream?" Moses, weary and heavy laden, sought the face of God anew. He ascended into the mount, drawn by the longing in his spirit to commune with the Lord, and when he reached the precipice the earth trembled beneath his feet. A cloud shrouded the summit, and the glory of the Lord enveloped him as a mantle of fire. "Speak, O Lord," Moses cried, falling to his knees in reverence. "Your servant hears you." And the Lord replied, "Gather the people, Moses. Tell them to sanctify themselves, for tomorrow I will provide meat to eat. They shall know that I am the Lord their God, who hears their cries and responds to their needs. But also proclaim to them the weight of their discontent. For I have fed them with heavenly bread, and they have despised it in their longing for the past." Moses, instructed by the voice of the Almighty, returned to the camp. With the elders standing beside him, he rallied the Israelites. "Hear, O Israel, tomorrow the Lord shall provide meat for you to eat. But let it be known, your hearts are heard, and the Lord requests that you acknowledge his provision." The people, astonished by this promise, felt both anticipation and trepidation. They had seen the wonders of the Lord, yet their hearts remained tethered to fruit and flesh. In the following days, a wind swept across the plains, as instructed by the divine word. Quail descended upon the encampment in great numbers, a manifestation of God's mercy and power. The people gathered the birds, their hearts pounding with excitement, yet a harsh reminder lingered. This provision came not without a price. Moses stood firm, a living testament to obedience, admonishing the Israelites. "Do not be deceived by this abundance," he warned. "For though the Lord is quick to show mercy, he is equally just, and his discipline will follow close behind if the heart remains hardened." Yet, even as they feasted upon the quail, a grievous plague struck the camp, consuming those who had craved their former fleshpots rather than relishing the daily bread of heaven. The fury of God was kindled, a swift reminder of the seriousness of returning to a life of bondage. As the echoes of wailing filled the air, Moses interceded once more, crying out to the Lord. In his mercy, God stayed his hand, teaching the people yet again the significance of faith and obedience. And so it was. Through trials and triumphs, the Lord revealed more of his sovereign plan. "You are to become a holy people, set apart for my glory, a nation that will testify of my faithfulness." What further wonders awaited the children of Israel? How would the lessons learned shape their journey into the Promised Land? In this unfolding tapestry of redemption, each moment drew them closer to their true identity, beckoning them forth into their destiny. And it came to pass that after the people grew weary from the plague, their hearts filled with a restless yearning for the land promised to their forefathers, they continued to wander amid the wilderness. Each day melted into the next, a cycle of shadows and whispers of doubt that seemed to ensnare the hearts of the Israelites. Moses, amidst ever-pressing concerns, sought shelter in the presence of the Lord once more. He stood before the tent of meeting, his spirit laden with the burdens of the people. "O Lord," he cried, his voice trembling as he sought wisdom for their plight, "how can I bear this alone? The burdens upon me are heavy, and your people cry out without ceasing." The Lord spoke with gentleness, yet with authority. "Gather unto you 70 men from among the elders of Israel, those whom you know to be elders and officers of the people. Bring them to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you. And I will take of the Spirit that is upon you, and will put it upon them. And they shall share the burden of the people with you, that you may not bear it alone. So Moses obeyed, and he assembled the elders as instructed. As they stood in the presence of the Almighty, the Spirit of the Lord descended upon them, and they prophesied, though not again. The hearts of the people lightened, a fresh wind of hope blowing through the encampment, yet there remained dissent in the camp. In the midst of this gathering arose 2 men, Eldad and Medad, who prophesied even within the camp. A young man rushed to Moses, exclaiming, "Eldad and Medad prophesy in the camp." Joshua, son of Nun, filled with a righteous zeal, pleaded, "My lord Moses, restrain them." And Moses replied, "Are you jealous for my sake? Would that all the Lord's people were prophets, that the Lord would put his Spirit upon them?" His heart yearned not for himself, but for the people to experience the fullness of God. Yet, amidst this divine outpouring, the tension swelled as the people remained restless. They longed for flesh beyond the quail, reminiscing of the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic of Egypt. "How can we trust that this journey leads us to the land you promised?" they lamented. The weight of their complaints troubled Moses deeply. He stood before the Lord once more, his heart a tumult of distress. "O Lord, why have you dealt ill with your servant? What have I done to be the bearer of this tribe yet again? Am I their mother, that you say to me, 'Carry them in your bosom as a guardian carries a nursing child'?" The Lord's response was filled with a stern yet compassionate wisdom. "Say to the people, 'Consecrate yourselves, for tomorrow you shall eat meat. You have wished for flesh, and the Lord will provide, yet it shall be a warning to you." Moses hesitated. "How can I provide meat for this people? For they are overwhelmed by their needs." The Lord assured him, "Is the Lord's hand shortened? You shall see whether my word will come to pass or not." And so it was, as the sun began to set, that a great wind blew from the sea, bringing forth quails once more, covering the camp. The abundance was staggering, yet the dispensation carried an undercurrent, a divine warning that even in plenty to turn away from the covenant could bear bitter fruit. As the people ate, the Lord's anger was kindled yet again against them. A plague broke forth, a testament of his judgment upon their discontent. Moses, as ever an intercessor, cried out to the Lord, pleading for mercy. Again the Lord stayed his hand, teaching them enduring lessons of covenant and faithfulness, how they must lean not on their own understanding, but trust in the ways of the Lord. And through it all, God revealed the layers of his sovereign plan, saying, "You are not merely a wanderer in this wilderness. You are being shaped and molded into a nation of priests and kings, a holy inheritance." What would come next for the children of Israel, as they bore witness to their own rebellion and God's unfailing grace? The path into the promised land lay ahead, but the heart's journey would soon unfold with even more trials and testings, beckoning them toward the depths of faith and obedience in the unfolding of God's majestic redemption plan. And so it came to pass that after countless trials and the weighty lessons learned in the wilderness, the Israelites found themselves at the threshold of their long-awaited promise. Their journey thus far had been illuminated by the steadfast presence of the Lord, yet shadows of doubt had at times clouded their understanding. Through every trial, God had crafted a people prepared to embrace their destiny as his chosen nation, molded in the fires of hardship and guided by his unyielding hand. As they encamped by the banks of the Jordan, Moses gathered the people, their faces radiant with expectation yet tinged with fear. "Hear, O Israel," he proclaimed, his voice echoing across the assembly. "This day you stand before the fulfillment of God's promise. Prepare your hearts, for in just a few days we will enter the land flowing with milk and honey." The sun rose over the horizon, casting golden rays upon the waters of the Jordan. With each sunrise, anticipation swelled within their spirits, but so did the weight of their history, the struggles, the betrayals, the reliance on God's miraculous provision. Moses, inspired by the Spirit of the Lord, reminded them of their covenant. "Remember the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and do not forget the signs and wonders he performed before your eyes." Among the crowd stood Joshua, the chosen leader to guide them into the promised land. Filled with the wisdom imparted by Moses and the Spirit of God, he understood the gravity of their task. "Consecrate yourselves," he urged, steadying the trembling hearts. "For tomorrow the Lord will do wonders among you." As night cloaked the encampment, the air crackled with holy expectation. The Lord spoke to Joshua, fortifying him with courage and clarity. "This day I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so they may know I am with you as I was with Moses. Command the priests to carry the Ark of the Covenant and stand in the waters of the Jordan." As dawn broke, the priests took the ark, a symbol of God's covenant love, and firmly stepped into the rushing currents. Miraculously, the waters receded, forming a towering wall to the right and to the left, allowing the Israelites to cross on dry ground. As they emerged from the waters, an overwhelming sense of awe swept over the crowd. They were no longer the enslaved, but the redeemed, standing on the precipice of a new life. "The Lord has delivered us once more," they declared, voices raised in triumphant song. The very earth rejoiced under their feet, resonating with the faithfulness of their God. Once all had crossed, Moses instructed them, "Choose 12 men, one from each tribe. Let them gather stones from the Jordan and carry them, that they might serve as a memorial." When the stones were collected and set as a lasting testament, Joshua declared, "These stones shall be a reminder of what the Lord has done, that future generations may know of his greatness." In the days that followed, the Israelites camped in Gilgal, a place of renewal and commitment to their God. They celebrated the Passover, their hearts intertwined with gratitude, a lineage of faith that stretched back to the moment Moses stood before Pharaoh. The taste of bitter herbs mingled with the sweet realization of freedom, a picture of grace woven through their story. Yet God's plan did not merely lead them to a land. He was shaping their identity. The call was not simply to inhabit a new territory, but to embody his covenant for all nations. With the establishment of their sanctuary in the land, they were to become the beacon of a promised redemption rooted in faith, love, and obedience. Moses, now aged and wise, watched as the peoples of the land began to lay down their burdens at the foot of this mighty God. His heart swelled with joy. Yet wisdom cautioned him. Beyond the immediate victory lay the need for persistent faithfulness. "You are a holy people," he reminded them. "Walk in the ways of the Lord. Do not be tempted by the gods of the land you now inhabit." As they entered their inheritance, trials remained on the horizon. Their faith would be tested among the nations, yet the promise held firm. The covenant called them to remember the strength of their God, the enduring bonds forged in hardship, and the miraculous acts that had brought them forth from bondage. And thus, God's sovereign narrative, fulfilled through the ages, continued to lead his people ever onward into deeper faith and steadfast obedience. It was a testament to his glory, a dance of redemption that reached beyond their time, a sacred legacy now resting in the hands of the faithful. So it remains today, dear friends, that the Lord is continually weaving his narrative through each of our lives. In moments of doubt, turn your hearts toward his promises. In times of struggle, remember his faithfulness. And always walk boldly into the destiny he has set before you. Now I invite you, subscribe immediately to this channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that will inspire your spirit. Leave a like now to help spread God's word far and wide through the algorithm. Don't miss your chance to comment your spiritual reflections and how this biblical story has impacted your faith. And please, share instantly this message with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, to unite in faith and power. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and its transformative power. Don't wait even one more second. join this journey together as true believers, reaching more souls for Christ.